What's going on? How y'all doing? Feeling good? Yeah? How awesome were Josh and Sartaj, by the way? Another round of applause for these guys. I didn't pay them for all the Reddit references, I swear to God. That was totally them. Yeah, I'm Rob. I lead insights for Reddit. I'm here to talk to you, I think, about the other half of the equation they were talking about. So they were talking a lot about what you can do on your own owned and operated sites to influence the LLMs. What I want to talk to you about is the incredible influence of all of the 100,000 plus communities on Reddit. It won't shock you to know that's the #1 question I get from every single client that I work with. They say, wow, I keep seeing Reddit as a top cited source. What do I do? And so I embarked on a research project with the Profound team to say, well, what do we do? What is actually driving these citations and how do we optimize for it? And that's what I'm going to chat with you guys about today. But first, how many of you guys are Redditors, by the way? So I know what my base is. That's what I like to see. That's awesome. All right. When I joined 4 years ago, joined Reddit, and I remember I told my mom, I'm like, I'm at Reddit. And she's like, I have no idea what the hell you're talking about, right? And then now, as I walk around, I can't go through the airport with a Reddit backpack without people stopping me, right? Because now it's become part of the zeitgeist. It's become sort of a de facto place, not just for community, where it started, right? But for product reviews. I firmly believe, and I've seen it myself, and I think many of you have if you're using Reddit, it's probably the greatest place on earth to find the real authentic truth about what products and services you should get, right? And that's why it's so powerful, of course, to these LLMs, because it's providing you that source of truth. But by the time we've now gotten to this sort of scale, and by the way, I put America up here, but if we do this in another country, you'll see we're pretty big and pretty much everywhere you'd want to be, right? What that's done is that's given us now a sense of equality. It's giving us a sense of we're 50-50 male-female. We have as many Gen Z as we have 55 plus on the platform. We really are a reflection of the totality of the human experience, right? All of that now indexed, all of that very open for the AI to then crawl and say, okay, great, you're a 55, well, I'm almost 50-year-old man, right? What does he want, right? What is he seeing? That's the power of having that kind of scale. But the question I get is, well, how the heck did you end up there, right? How did you go from your mom not knowing where the hell you work to all of a sudden being stopped every time you pass through the airport? And it comes down to this quote here from The Atlantic, right? If you take a step back and you think about, well, even why are LLMs being so widely adopted here? I think it starts from the fact that we've, culturally, we've now passed into this place of inauthenticity. We've all woken up to the fact that every algorithm out there is trying desperately to sell me something I do not want to buy. Every influencer that I used to think was really cool because they told me really funny stories about their crazy life is actually trying to sell me a juice I never knew could heal my worst ailment, right? We know that they're full of it. And they've been increasingly turning to Reddit to say, well, what's the real scoop, right? I love this here. It's a 79% stat, because we do a lot to say, well, how is this being changed or impacted by the current climate, right? And we all know we're in a little bit of a turbulent climate right now. This behavior of researching, of trust but verify, of validating, has only increased people going to Reddit to say, what's the real scoop? Because it matters more now. Right? A year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, if I made a little bit of a mistake with a purchase, no big deal. But now times are tighter and people are doing more of that research. And so it's so interesting to see the counterpoint of, I want to understand what's happening, but if I have an AI that can do that even faster for me so I don't have to think, God, that's like the best of both worlds, right? That's what we're seeing. You guys have seen stats like this over and over. Search is splintered, right? And I'm taking a half step back so you can kind of see the context here. But 58% of consumers have replaced traditional search engines with AI. I did this months ago. This is probably way higher now. You guys probably have an even more recent stat. 2/3 of Gen Z and millennials are actively using AI to power their recommendations already. And again, these are somewhat dated. And we're even seeing it on Reddit. I don't know, how many of you guys know that Reddit has a search product, right? Reddit Answers, yeah. It's fantastic. It is the ` feature that people are continually going to on Reddit, the new feature that we've launched, because they know there's gold there. There's 20 years of collective human wisdom on that site. And we're finally making it easy for you to find it. It's incredibly powerful. So that search is now splintering. It's going in many different directions. And what we're finding is that the common theme throughout all of it is conversations. real, authentic human conversations. It's the kind of thing that you can't buy. You can't fake, right? A real human had to drive a real car and share their experience, and they put it increasingly on places like Reddit. And so what we're seeing is that those conversations, we call it, when we refer to it, we say it's the internet's new currency. If you have the best conversations about your brand, you have currency, you have cred, you have clout, you have power in this equation, right? And that could it feeds our Reddit search results, certainly. It feeds LLM search results, and of course, it still feeds traditional search, right? I guess, you guys say in, 5 years we're going to be, the bots are going to be buying for us, but search is still here right now, right? And so those conversations are still fueling that as we go. This all kind of raises a question that we get constantly, probably too much from clients and investors, which is, okay, well, what does this mean then? If everyone's using AI, why on earth would they ever go to Reddit? Why would they use your platform? And this is Steve Huffman, by the way. That's our gorgeous-looking CEO. Very nice guy, actually. And he says human conversation isn't going to be replaced by AI. In fact, it's making that conversation more valuable because the AI needs that as its source code. I'll give you an example. How many of you guys have been to the Sphere in Vegas? Yeah? If you haven't gone, you all should go. It's wild. It's crazy, right? You should definitely go for a Dead concert if you could do it, right? But what's cool about the Sphere is literally the screens are all around you. They're in front of you. They're above you. They're behind you. They're to the side of you, right? And when you think about a simple question like, what seat should I buy at the Sphere? It depends. That's a hard question to answer. Do you have vertigo? Well, you better not be too high because you're going to feel really bad. Are you going to take an edible? Yeah, it's legal there in Vegas. Why not, right? You might want to choose a different seat, right? It's not as easy as when you go to Kennedy Center or Lincoln Center and you're like, okay, I know I want to sit orchestra, right? It's not that simple. This is a lot harder. It requires real human input. It requires a back and forth. And that's doubly so for people, for younger generations like Gen Z, who expect these recommendations and these conversations to be incredibly personalized. They want to know exactly for them what is the best thing for me. You can't do that without real humans. If you go to Reddit right now and you go to a subreddit like, what car should I buy? And someone asks, hey, I just had kids, I need an SUV, what should I get? You will not get an answer. What you will get is a series of questions. What's your budget? Where do you live? Do you have to commute long for work? How many kids do you have? Do you need car seats? There's a million of nuanced questions, right, that real humans have to answer for you. That's what makes it, you could already see, that architecture is what creates this amazing synergy with the LLMs, because that's the level of specificity they're putting into those platforms. All right, so I've sort of buried the lead here. So what does all this mean, right? What does all this mean? Great, okay, we get it. Hopefully you're bought in. You love Reddit. I love Reddit. Great. What do you do, right? First off, this is my caveat. I don't know if my comms person's here, but she made me say this. No, it's true. We don't know. It's early stages, right? This is early days. Like, we got to take all this with a grain of salt, right? Like, we're learning. This is what we know now. I think we see this as, this is a snapshot of what we think. Things will change, all right? Over drinks, I'll tell you some of the changes I had in the last 2 weeks. I wanted to mention that. Okay, but that said, there are some things we've learned that I think are really important. The first one is, like I've said, conversation platforms are extremely powerful for these LLMs. And we believe that they will become increasingly powerful as the LLMs continue to learn what users of these platforms gravitate towards. They do click out sometimes. I know we call this zero click, and they often don't. But when they do click out, where are they going? What kind of content is helping to make that purchase decision? What's going to convince them? And we think those human conversations are going to do that. I use the example of if you are trying to fix a sink, and you want to know what's broken with your sink, right? The beautiful thing about a conversation is it goes really nicely with the instructions. You have the instructions that says, oh yeah, you got to tighten the nut. Great, how tight? I don't know. I need a human to help me understand that, right? I also, let's be honest, want to be entertained a little bit. And those human stories on Reddit of the fails, of the things they mess up, of the things that don't quite go right, that's what adds the level of credibility, the human part, the stories behind it that make it feel really relevant. So that's thing number one. 9 out of the top 10 domains that get cited with Reddit are actually informational in nature. So it's sort of like a left brain, right brain sort of thing. So you should think about it, and this might be part of your strategies, is you're thinking about, well, where else am I being cited? What are call it the left brain or the more rational, instructional, technical places where I want to give information? What's the conversation corollary to that? How are those going together? How can I manufacture those so that they work hand in hand? All right. Reddit is over 100,000 subreddits, active subreddits, way more, right? That is a big, big universe. Every client who comes to me, the very first thing that they're most terrified about is they say, where the heck do I start? Reddit is massive. What do I do? And the answer is actually quite simple. You got to focus, right? The study that we did shows that on average, 55% or more of the time, it's 3 to 5 subreddits that really matter for your category, for your query. You could take that universe, you could shrink it down rather quickly to the 3 to 5 that matter. And more than that, those 3 to 5 usually follow a fairly typical pattern, usually a Q&A format, right? What car should I buy? Buy it for life, right? r/makeup tutorial. Sorts of things where people ask a question and then they get responses in return, right? Those are the sorts of formats that seem to work the best. So you only have to focus on those 3 to 5. And your friends at Profound or myself can help you find those 3 to 5, trust me, right? Narrow that universe, focus on that universe. Next thing, they love the opinionated nature of Reddit, right? Best thing about Redditors is they are an opinionated bunch. I've never met a Redditor that doesn't have a strong opinion about something they know very little about, right? The cool thing about Reddit, and one of the things that I love about being at Reddit is that many of the people who come to Reddit literally come because they want to have their point of view challenged. In fact, 76% of people who come to Reddit come specifically with the express purpose of having their point of view challenged. 90% of Redditors consider themselves open-minded. We did a study a few years back where we looked at people who were in the consideration funnel for a car, and we were following them through this process, and what we found is that 25% of the people who came with cars they were considering, 2 cars they were considering, left with a 3rd car that wasn't even part of the consideration set. That's what they ended up buying in that process. Redditors are looking to have their point of view challenged. Now, why does this matter? The reason this matters is because think again about what the LLM is doing. The LLM is trying to figure out what is an honest-to-God opinion of this product that had an amazing, I don't know, it wasn't a blog post, whatever, a Medium article, right? Had an amazing Medium article telling me why it's the best CRM on earth. What the heck do real people think? And real people disagree. I don't know if you've noticed, but real people don't agree on everything, right? That disagreement is super, super, super helpful. At one point, Josh and I were talking, this is way back when we started working together, and we were joking about like a cookie recipe. And your grandma story made me laugh about that because I was thinking about that, right? If you see a Reddit thread and one person on the Reddit thread is going on and on about how you need sea salt on the cookie to make it great, and there's another group of people who are so anti-sea salt, you wonder if sea salt did something to their family members, right? That disagreement is how the LLM goes, oh, I get it. These are decision criteria. These are factors I need to consider. It's that back and forth. It's that debate that really makes it wonderful. It's also the upvote, downvote feature. You guys may not know this, but when I think you all know, our data is licensed to many of these companies. When they get that data, they get the upvote and downvote data, right? So what that means is they can see if a subreddit has consolidated around an idea. Does someone just have a random opinion that no one else supports, or is everybody hopping on that bandwagon? That's really helpful to them. So that's what they're looking for. They're looking for opinionated conversational cues. They're looking for positives. They're looking for negatives. The number of brands who come to me and they say, well, we have to get rid of all these negative comments on Reddit. I mean, how can we do that? That's not your job. Don't do that. You need the real human conversation. You need debate, right? You're not a brand for everybody. I'm sorry. It's okay that people don't like you, right? And some proof here that I thought was really helpful. We also then study the individual citations. We said, well, what kind of language cues are in there that help, because we use this idea of like, it's helpful, We like to say that, hey, the LLM is looking for helpful posts. What the heck does that mean, right? Or opinionated posts. What does that really mean? What we mean is that it's looking for posts where people say, this is the best, this is my favorite, right? This is the top, this is the most. They're looking for those superlative language, okay? Last thing, and then I'm going to tell you what you do about it. So when they're looking at the posts, when the LLMs are looking at this post, it's difficult to figure out why this post. What was it about this post that was so fantastic, that was so great? A lot of it's semantic matches. It's like, I asked, I need the safest car on, what's the safest car for kids? And someone posted, what's the safest car for kids? Like, that's a pretty obvious match. But a lot of it has to do with this metadata here. It's like the community size. Is this from a big established community? Now imagine a big established community who also had a ton of upvotes about this thing. That's probably a well-held opinion. Is it user engagement? Was there a lot of back and forth? Were people really debating this thing or not? Was the content clear? Lists. People don't talk in lists. It's very interesting, but when they do on Reddit, boy, that LLM just gobbles that up. It loves it, right? People don't always do it, but when they do, it's great. Bless you. The thing that's a little hard, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it, but I'll put it out there and maybe you guys, a ton of smart people here, you guys can help me figure it out. One thing the data showed very clearly, posts over a year old have a madly disproportionate likelihood of being cited by the LLM. My hypothesis there is because Reddit's also a place where if you ask a question and it's already been answered somewhere else, they're like, hey, idiot, go to that other post, right? So part of it is I think there's just a longer history of those posts. But I would posit, based on what Josh and Sartaj were saying, this is an opportunity also. This is an opportunity for you now to give it more recent data, to get to inspire more recent posts about a topic so that therefore you have the ability to change the conversation. But what we do see from the data is right now, it is older posts. It also means you probably need to tell your CMO, tap the brakes. If you're investing in Reddit, you got to invest over the long haul. You can't just drop into a subreddit, throw 3 posts out there, bounce, and hope it's all going to change, right? Cool. So what does all this mean then? So if I were to summarize then my advice to anybody who's saying, I want to leverage Reddit, I want to go to Reddit to see how I can change the perspective of me. The first thing I would say is narrow your focus. Find those 3 to 5 subreddits. Find the ones that really matter to you. Lurk and learn in those subreddits. Go to those subreddits and really understand, what are they saying about you? What are they saying about their competitors? What do they care about, right? Spend some time advertising those folks. Those are the people you need to influence. You don't necessarily have to spam the hell out of that one subreddit. You can advertise to them all around Reddit, right? If you have Cappy or any kind of tracking, you can go anywhere, track those guys, right? But those are the influential people. You need to find them. You need to advertise to them. You need to convince them. And we're actually exploring different creative options to say, let's not measure based on will you click on my ad or go to my website. Let's actually measure on, can I convince you through my advertising to produce content? What does that look like? What does it look like to have campaigns that are driven by getting user engagement? A good example of that, none of you are, probably not, European, but there's a car in Europe called the Skoda Octavia. Does anyone know what this car is? Oh, you are? Oh, there you go. So he gets it, right? The Skoda Octavia on Reddit has a passionate fan base. There's a subreddit called UK car sales. And in the UK car sales, people will say, hey, what car should I get? Which one should I? And they say, well, you should bow down to your Lord and Savior, the Octavia Skoda. That is their direct quote. They call it their Lord and Savior because it is the holy trinity of being good looking, fun to drive, and affordable. It is their Lord and Savior. So what did Octavia, or the Skoda Octavia, what did they do? They went to that subreddit and they said, great, we're gonna hold a competition where we are gonna post all the possible features that you could get with a Skoda Octavia, and we're gonna let you upvote and downvote your favorite features. Then we're going to go farther and we're going to actually create that car. And we're going to let you test drive that car. And we want you to post on this subreddit all about your experience with this car. And then we're going to actually sell this car. Visits to their stores were up 44%, literally from this. But that's not what you care about. What you care about is think of all that content that has now been created by everyday Redditors in the most influential car subreddit for LLMs in the UK. All of it says, bow down to your Lord and Savior. Isn't that amazing? All right. I said at the start, this is early days. There's a lot we don't know. These are 3 things I'm continuing to study with my team and the Profound team. If you guys want to study this with me, please find me, because this is the hard stuff. They talked a lot about the new discovery journey, right? We have a lot of research that shows that people are using mixing and matching many of these tools. What does that look like? How does that work together? Are people choosing different platforms or different processes for different kinds of categories? Is it a free-for-all? Are they going to gravitate towards one path or another? All that's up for grabs. We need to figure that out. The second, the whole ecosystem. Right? You saw that we are highly cited for all the major models, but differently, right? Sometimes we're 6%, sometimes we're 0.2%, whatever, right? That variance, how? What's actually happening there? How are the models operating differently? And lastly, I think there's a huge challenge in our industry around rethinking attribution, rethinking our attribution windows. If you spend a lot of money on convincing someone to be a proponent for you on Reddit, but then that post isn't made for 6 months or a year, how do you know? How do you know what happened? How do we think differently about ROAS in a world where your job is to influence the people who influence an LLM, who will eventually give a recommendation that drives all those billions of dollars that Josh and Sartaj says we're gonna make? That's what I got, guys. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it.